and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. So City Council and audience. Discussion items number 3. Discussion and possible direction action to staff on the recruitment procedure of the city manager's position. Mr. Kissinger.
Mr. Mayor. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, the council has asked us to prepare some background on some of the applicants for the city manager's position. We have done so. We've emailed you and given you confidential hard copies of those backgrounds. There was some talk in last meeting that the council would like to look at some potential interview questions. I have a packet here, some samples. If you like, I go ahead and pass them out.
No,
if you require them, I have them here.
Just a minute.
Okay, I have them here, some interview questions. We haven't been provided with a finalist list for the mayor and council yet. You haven't given us, these are the finalists I would like to interview. I know that there are people in the community that are looking for the names of the finalists. We will provide those names when you all decide these are our finalists, and we can move forward with that. So with that said, Mr. Mayor, I turn it back to you so you can give staff some direction on what steps you would like us to take to assist you, to assist the mayor and council in selecting your next city.
Yeah, well, before I make a motion or anything, did everybody receive their packet?
Yeah.
Yes? Mr. Massey, I want to move to go into executive session with this, to discuss that.
For the purpose of legal advice?
Legal advice and, yeah, to discuss the packet.
Well, we haven't.
I don't want to go through legal advice like we went last time.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to be able to, when we go in for legal advice, according to you, it's very structured.
Very structured.
Extremely structured, okay? And I understand that. But I don't want to go into executive session if it's going to be like that.
Okay.
I want to have the ability to speak.
Yes.
And Mr. Mayor, if I could also amplify on what Councilman Verona mentioned, I think what maybe the council is contemplating is doing an executive session for the purpose of discussing a personnel matter, which is the selection of the next city manager. But unfortunately, we didn't agendize that under A1. We always have on the agenda on the second page that under any item on the agenda you can select to go into executive session for the purpose of legal advice. But if you want to have more of a personnel matter for an executive session, which is what I hear is the desire of Councilman Verona, we unfortunately have to agenda that differently than what it has been agended here. And then it requires a 24-hour notice to the individuals. So if you, yeah.
I got your point.
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor, I'm ready to discuss this out in the public. We are at the point now to discuss what we want to do out in the public. So I'm ready to discuss it here. I've narrowed mine to 2 finalists, and I want to give my opinion on the format for the questions and the dates and everything. So with your permission, Mayor, can I speak?
Yes, but has everybody else, do we all have somebody in mind, or we just, I don't.
Or we may not have nobody in mind.
Well, yeah, but say it out here in the public.
That's also the same thing.
That's right.
Well, you know, okay, so I'd rather not discuss some of the background on some of these candidates to a certain point. I don't think I want to do it in public. That's why I want to do it in executive session, but Mr. Massey says you can't, basically.
Not today.
But not today.
But I'm ready.
So we can discuss maybe the names and the experience they have if you want to that point, but
Mayor, I'm going to, for Mr. Kissinger, if you would please, these are my 2 finalists based on the time that I spent studying their background and studying the background check that was done by Lieutenant Thompson, which was very well done. Thank you. It helps and it clears up a lot of things because I'm not about to get burnt again. And my two finalists are Edward Johnson and Gilbert Jesus Manuel Burgos III. Based on what I've seen, on the packets and everything, those are my two finalists. And that's all I need to say, because we've all studied it. The packet is open to the public after that. I don't think I need to say anything else.
Okay. We'll hear from everybody else.
I'm pretty sure those are the two I choose when they requested.
Okay. Anybody else?
Same here.
I concur.
You concur?
Yep.
Councilman Rojas?
I'm fine with the selection.
Yeah. Mr. Hanesian?
I basically, have it already decided in my mind that we should put it out again and narrow the scope completely to people. The only one here that applied is the one that everybody eliminated, that actually had any city manager's experience. Everybody else has got experience in completely something else, in which I don't see how it's going to help the city. If I'm going to be sitting here and I tend to feel that I know more than somebody coming in as a city manager, that would not make me comfortable at all, right? I need somebody that knows more than I know, right? So as far as I'm concerned, all three of them, there was one that I would say maybe bring him in just to talk to him, but not because I feel that he would be that I would be comfortable with him being city manager. I don't know, his name is, what's his name? His name is Edward Johnson, right? But not that I feel comfortable with him being city manager. So basically, I think, my opinion is put it out again, but this time narrow the scope to people that have actually had experience. And maybe a lot of people did not go ahead and apply strictly because it was not narrowed that much. That I want people that have had experience, in my opinion, better if it's experience in the state of Arizona, right? So I would say my suggestion, we just put it out to bid again, narrow the scope, and just hope we get 10 good instead of 100 bad.
Not to bid, to advertise.
To advertise it, yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'd like to respond to Councilman Henesian. We put in a lot of time on this and a lot of background checks that were done. I'm limiting my comments at your request, Mayor, of what to say, okay? Because I'm prepared to say how I narrowed it down. If you want me to limit it, I follow your direction on that, Mayor. I'm still going to stick. I don't want to go over and start again. That I don't want to do, okay? We need to find a qualified person that we see. I understand that Councilman Henesian wants to narrow the focus. Well, we talked about that at the beginning of the search, and we said we didn't want to narrow it. We wanted, in particular, to see if we could get people from other venues, other backgrounds, i.e. nonprofits, to come and help us. Well, those applicants didn't pan out, but that's okay. We screened them out. That's what we're here for, to do that. I just don't want to go ahead and start the process over again to narrow it down as another point of contention here. Previous mayors and councils have narrowed the focus to only those who have been involved in a city manager, deputy city manager, or assistant city manager. Narrowed the focus, and look what happened. So I could come back and say the same thing. Hey, we just limited to this. It's limited in scope, and we're just never going to get any place. But we've narrowed it before, and we didn't exactly get the prizes of all prizes on the selection process. Even though I wasn't a part of the process, but I just feel that, and I think the consensus is we're ready to move on. Let's interview these people. Let's see what the public says. Let's get feedback from the public and see what we can come up. Now, if at that time we come up to a consensus, you know what? They're not a fit for us after all. But let's get input from the employees. Let's see how they go through our interview process. Let's see how they feel about our community. Let's see if their family wants to move to our community. And then when we get all of that answered on a face-to-face, then we can make a decision when we elaborate and say, okay, now let's make a decision. Thank you, Mayor.
Go ahead,
Mr.
Councilman.
Mayor, as far as I remember, we only had one that I remember where we actually put it out, and we had like 7 or 8 city managers that applied, and we did narrow it down, and that was when Shane Gilly came in. That's the only one I remember, because all the others were pretty much an in-house situation. It was actually we never legitimately were looking for anybody else except specifically for one person, and that's where the problem came out the last 2 times that we had a city manager, right? Excluding Shane Gilly.
Well, let me just say my point. Members of the City Council, I basically feel the same way as Councilman Hanesian on this. I looked it over, and I want to thank you, Mr. Thompson, for the background and all the work you did. That's great information, and it's very important for us to see. The only one name is Mr. Johnson, I believe, is the only one that is to me, I would say, closest to anything. But the qualifications are not all there. So, if by unanimous vote the council decided, and it looks that way because the majority of you already said those 2 names, decide to go, to me it's always been the interview process that makes my decision. So in the interview process, I might change my mind or completely. I mean,
That could happen to us,
yeah,
Mayor.
yeah,
We could change our mind, too.
yeah. Because the thing is that but I'll say it right now. There's only one right there that really catches my eye. A tad, not completely. The same words that Mr. Hanesian said, I'll say it too, because I looked at them and I looked through the whole list of the candidates that we had all selected and the category that were placed, and it was very hard for me to even come up with a name alone on that. And one of the persons that I did select, it so happened that he got a job somewhere else before he even got a chance to come to interview here. And he was the highest qualified person in the position.
Mayor,
but
Lieutenant Thompson said the same thing that you were saying, but that's some of the things that when we ourselves prolong the process, those things will happen.
Yes, yes.
In any process. I've gone through it with superintendents, I've gone through it with at the community college. Sometimes they're constantly hunting and they say, I want to go to Nogales, I want to go to NUSD, but I can't wait for them. I need a job.
Yeah.
And that's the risk that we take.
Yeah, that's what happens. So what we'll do then, as unanimous as the way it is right now. Now I need to set a motion on this. Do we have to motion on this?
I'd like to make a motion to authorize Mr. Kitchener to make contact with these final 2 individuals.
Let's do that. Okay. And do you have anything else? Anybody else to say? Okay. You have a second? Any discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Second?
Second.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, before, I just want to make sure that I follow the wishes of the council. So the motion is for me to make contact with them. Right now, I can make contact with them, let them know they're finalists. But would you also like me to make contact with them to schedule interviews, or will that be coming at a later time? And I just caution you, because time is also of the essence, because these 2 gentlemen that you talked to me about, I can make an assumption that they might be looking for another job also.
Right.
So just
That would be
Aren't they
proper.
employed already?
huh?
Aren't they employed?
Robert?
So, not even 20 minutes ago, I got an email from Mr. Johnson, and I told him, give me about an hour so I can get back to you, knowing that this was going to happen. Mr. Burgos is currently employed, and both are in the Phoenix metro area, so it'd be a 3-hour travel
Is
time.
Mr. Johnson employed?
He has his own consultation firm, so
Okay.
on his own behalf, he is.
So I just want, if you want me to offer them an interview, maybe we can talk about that a little bit so we can move forward on
Yeah,
something
but
like
as long as
that.
the interviews, and you have to talk to them, not this year.
Okay.
It's gonna be done in January.
And I'm good with that, and I'd just like to let them know, listen, you're a finalist, we'd like to schedule an interview with you down here in Nogales, and we're anticipating doing it on January.
Don't get too far ahead here. Mayor, tell us why we can't do it during Christmas.
I wouldn't wanna there's so much to do right now, I don't wanna sit down and start thinking about interviewing, a city manager. I mean,
Okay,
it's
because
3 weeks away.
Okay, so then 3 weeks away, so we
We're
can
gonna
put
be in
it down on
January.
our schedule.
Yeah.
Let's just say that we're gonna commit ourselves from January the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, through the 10th for those interviews.
Because our meeting is gonna be on the 8th,
The
remember?
following week.
Yes.
And then if we decide on something, maybe we can do something there and we can give Mr. Massey, so the proper wording is okay, so us to go into executive session then. So Mr. Massey will have plenty of time to do that.
Right.
But the interviews have to be between the 6th,
Yes.
the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. That's the first week of January. Does everybody?
But the first meeting is the 8th?
The 8th,
That's the
because
following.
the first Wednesday is gonna be on the 1st.
The first Wednesday's out.
Yeah.
So we're looking at maybe
second
on
Wednesday of the
Monday,
month.
on Monday, which would be
The 8th.
the 8th.
So
Yeah.
you want us to communicate to our finalists?
Again, the first meeting would be on what? On
Wednesday the 8th.
Wednesday, the 8th.
The Wednesday the 8th, but I would say having the interview maybe on Monday,
On the 6th.
which would be the 6th.
That's fine. That's just no
I
problem.
don't
Don't make it
or,
difficult.
or does everybody have the
No,
interview?
I'd rather have it on Monday the 6th.
Yeah, I'd rather have it Monday on the 6th.
Before the
That's-
council meeting.
Before the council meeting, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Doesn't, but just as long as we give Mr. Massey to put the proper wording into place.
Right.
So just tell him that
What he did.
we have one day for the interviews and schedule it at any time
On the 6th.
on the
On the
6th.
6th.
And everybody's good.
That's fine.
On the 6th, I would say, so they could get down here maybe in the afternoon, right? And, I don't think we should do it in the evening.
No, no,
Or we can do it in the morning.
do it in the
Or
morning.
we could do it in the morning, sure.
I don't know. You just schedule the,
I'll be here.
Now, it'll be one of them at a certain hour, and then the other one, like maybe 2 hours later,
right.
right?
So a reasonable traveling time from Phoenix, maybe around 10 or 11, start
Yeah.
them and then take them from
Yeah.
there.
If they
I'm
wanna
good with
really
that
be, if
direction.
they wanna really prepare and
They'll be
understand the
here the
community,
night before.
they'll be here the night before.
Yeah, let them know that
Dr. Verona,
Sir?
and the reason why I'm suggesting maybe we start a little bit after 10 o'clock or something, I know some of the council members have commitments in the morning, and I was just trying to do my best to accommodate them, but, I mean, we can do it however you all want it done.
Anything up to 10.
Yes, sir.
10 o'clock, yeah,
After
if
10
the first
o'clock,
one's
I
scheduled
should
at
be
10,
free.
and then we can break for lunch, and have the second one scheduled, figure 2 hours each,
Yeah.
and have the second one scheduled for 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
That's
2
great,
o'clock.
that's great direction, I think with that we know exactly what to do.
So 10 and
Now,
2,
okay, now you were talking about questions.
Yeah, so I've prepared some questions for your consideration.
Excuse me, where is the HR person?
Our HR person's on medical leave?
Medical?
Yeah, and I would like to just leave it at that.
Okay,
If you don't mind.
fine.
So I have prepared some, actually, our HR person has prepared some questions for you. I'm going to distribute them to you right now.
Yeah,
And
let's just distribute, I don't think we need to discuss them, do we?
whatever you wish, Mr. Mayor.
Just
Mayor,
pass,
you're
let's
ready.
pass them on, let's see.
Mayor,
Yes.
can we have a little flexibility in the format?
Yes, because,
Yeah, Mr. Massey? Sir, I'm gonna make a statement right now, and I just want you to make sure that I'm not extending the envelope, okay? I'd like to have a format, not so much structured with questions, but I would like to have the opportunity to go ahead and ask. I would like to have maybe a structured question, and I would like to have 5 minutes of time to ask my own questions to the candidate.
Well, I believe this would be in the form of a meeting, since there will be a quorum present. And so at any special council meeting, the mayor will be chairman of the meeting. So I think that's something that at the discretion of the chairman, you can
be very flexible with the format.
You don't find anything illegal or improper that, okay.
Just
Don't ask illegal questions.
Right.
But I think you know exactly what,
and
what's
it's
proper.
spelled out here, what you
Right.
shouldn't talk about or ask, right?
Yeah, because I feel the same way, Councilman, you know, there's some questions I want to ask.
Yeah,
That are my questions, and,
You know, we can agree on 5 generic questions, okay? 5 or 6 generic questions that we can submit to Mr. Kissinger, circle them, and he'll pick out those 5 generic questions. All the questions will be asked by the mayor.
So one thing,
And
maybe
then-
we can make, if I can make a suggestion, maybe one thing we could do is on the 6th, agendize a meeting, which would have to because you would be present. We can agendize a meeting, and I don't know, I'm just thinking off the top of my head right now. Maybe you could have an executive session where you could go in a private setting amongst yourself, decide what format you would like to interview your 2 candidates with, or select some questions, or leave it wide open, or whatever, however you would like to do that, and have a discussion about it at that time. Gives you a chance to go over it, formulate your own questions, or however, whatever format you would like to use.
Okay, you're saying before the meeting, before the
Yeah, on the
Monday
10th,
meeting?
we have to agendize a meeting anyway. So you're gonna have to call a meeting to order just to do the interviews, because there'll be a quorum present.
Well, if we do it at 10, that means we're saying we're doing it at 9,
Sure.
all right?
All I'm saying is prior to your interview starting. It's just a suggestion. You can totally reject that if that's not what you would want to do. I don't have a problem.
I don't want to get into any more executive sessions. I don't want to get into an executive session until we discuss in private what we felt about the interviews, what we've heard from the community. But the rest, to me, everything from now, we've gotten to this point, needs to be out in the public. Everything that we do.
But
Till the end.
if you don't mind, Dr. Berner, I'd like to, all I'm saying is that there are occasions where the questions that you're going to be asking the candidates are kept private prior to asking the question. So if we discuss it right now, what questions you're
Yeah.
going to be asking, it's available to the public and on
Yes,
YouTube.
yes.
So your call, Mr. Mayor, however you all decide
I,
you want to move forward. I'm just trying to help you in your process.
On my previous opportunity to interview, when I was a member of the city council at the time, Mr. Dilly and the other candidates, I had my questions. I had prepared my own questions myself, and I felt very comfortable with that way. And you can give me a list like this. I'll look over them. That doesn't mean I'm going to ask any of these questions. You know, I'll just make sure I don't ask, like you say, something that's going to get me in trouble or whatever. But I'd rather ask my own questions, because I got some personal stuff that
Me too.
that I'm looking for the vision of the city of Nogales, that I want to see these people, see if they have that vision too.
And Mr.
So-
Mayor, I just want to be very clear that these suggested questions that I passed out today were at a request by Mayor and Council at the last meeting,
Yes.
that we give you some questions. That's all. I'm
But I
not
think-
inferring
I
that you
think-
need to use
I
these.
think this is fine. I don't think we need to go into another meeting. This is fine for all of you to look at, and you can formulate, or you can do whatever you want to with this. Circle any of them if you want to use them yourself. But I honestly believe, members of the city council, that you should come up with your own questions, because this is a person that's going to be managing our city for the next 2 years. And we have to make sure that you're comfortable with what you ask. 'Cause if I ask a general
Or may
question,
not be the person.
yeah, or may not be, because I can ask a question of both of them, that we formulate questions, and they could both answer it the same way. But if you ask it one way differently on something, you know, I know, Ms. Lopez, you have different ideas that I have, and Councilman Rojas, and all of you have different ideas. Why don't we do that? Let's just keep this, John,
Yes, sir.
and we'll look at this, and thank you for the opportunity to give us an idea of what questions we could ask and the information we need to be able to conduct this interview properly. And then from there, we'll just take it ourselves. I
Thank you,
guess your
sir.
job right now is just to contact these 2 people
We'll do,
and
Mr.
set
Mayor.
up the date for
And
us.
thank you for the clear direction.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right.
No, Mayor, but
Let's-
I understand what you said, but we can't come to an interview and you take up 30 minutes and he only has 5 minutes.
No, I don't come
So,
to
no,
take 30 minutes.
No, but that's not my point. I could take up 30 minutes easily. but it's not fair to everybody else. We have to agree upon how long do each one of us
Well,
have to ask questions.
well, let's just agree that right now.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Let's
Okay.
agree on it right now.
All right, so how many questions do you all want apiece? Let's start
I
with
just
that.
want 5 minutes. We should each have 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes to do the
And
job.
it doesn't matter how many questions you ask in 5
Right.
minutes.
That's up to you.
Okay.
I only
So-
want 3
What if
questions.
it takes 5 minutes to answer?
Well, no, but that's what we always tell, you know, what he's able to tell us in brevity and knowledge, that's where he's gonna show his experience.
It took me at least 15 minutes for my questions with Mr. Gilly when I questioned him.
Well,
at
if
the
you
time.
want 15 minutes apiece,
Yeah.
that's fine with me
So
too.
that I will
Doesn't make a
take
difference,
at
as
least
long as
15
we all
minutes.
have equal time,
Yeah,
and that's it, just
because
that.
we shouldn't push the time on this.
I think it's
If he
more
has
the
to sit there for
questions.
2 hours
That's
and be
fine.
questioned, he has to sit there for 2
So
hours.
you wanna make
but
it
he's gonna
15
sit here
minutes
for 2
apiece?
years.
15 minutes apiece?
Because he's gonna sit here for 2 years and he's gonna have to deal with this council, so.
Yeah, you can ask what, you don't have to use the 15 minutes, if you only have 3
If you
questions,
don't want
that's
to,
up
you
to
can,
you.
yeah,
No,
you
you
can
just
just,
can't exceed it.
So you'd
Yeah.
rather go by, you know, the time will go by depending on the source of the question.
Right.
Do you want to go by opportunities, how many questions each councilman has?
no, because when we conducted that interview, I remember I asked a question and then I didn't keep asking questions. I asked a question, he answered it. I was comfortable, I jumped to another councilman, and then when that councilman, then I came to a thought, wrote something down, and then I raised my hand and I said, can I ask a question? And we went like that. Because sometimes something triggers that somebody else asked that you wanna, or you didn't hear it all completely, that you wanna hear it, and I think it's good. This way, that person that's being interviewed, you'll see if he's city manager material or not. Okay? Because he has to be, the way I look at it, he has to be interviewed like if he was sitting right there, where John's at. And we're in a council meeting, and he's asked a question, and John, what do you think about this infrastructure issue? And that's the way I think a city manager should be interviewed, not generic. Because anybody can, if a person is trained to be a city manager, they know how to answer these questions, and they're generic. But Nogales is different. This is a border community. This is not Tucson, Phoenix, Sahuarita, all these very well planned communities. This is a community that we have serious issues and that we have to conduct. So, believe me, members of the council, you have enough time, and I'm glad we're doing it that on the 6th, because you'll have enough time to come up with the right questions you need to ask. And, but if you want 5 minutes, and you want 10, and you want 15, problema conmigo. He has
So
to
then-
wait. If it's gonna take him 2 hours to be interviewed, ni modo.
So the agreement is, once you're recognized until you're finished, and if you want to be called again, you can
Yes.
be called
Yeah,
again.
just like
And
we're having a
if
council
it takes us
meeting.
2 hours, 3 hours,
Yes.
fine.
that'd be fine.
That's fine, as long as-
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
But everybody's gonna have 15 minutes max.
Yes, max, 15 minutes for sure. Yeah, if you wanna stop there, that's all right.
So we're still gonna figure 10 o'clock, 10 to 12, and then 2 to 4, is that what we're gonna figure?
Yeah,
2 hours?
if it does happen to go pass by another
Sure.
half an hour, more.
For lunch, should we divide the group and have half the group take one gentleman to lunch and the other group take?
I don't think nobody should be taking anybody to lunch.
I don't think so.
Not during an interview process. Wait until you hire them, then take them to lunch.
You know, it would pop.
Drinks are on the question?
No lunch to nobody. No, but you don't wanna talk to that person that's being interviewed outside the council chambers.
Mayor,
Yeah.
if we're gonna have lunch from 10,
No, 12.
12 to 2, and we start the second person at 2 o'clock, and it does go to 3 hours, we'll be fine. But if we start at 10, then we're gonna get into the lunchtime, and can't we start at 9 o'clock, so at least we have 3 hours? I think
I
we
would.
can do in 3 hours.
Let's do it 9 o'clock, Mr. Kissinger. All right?
The
Yes,
lunch
sir.
is on the house.
Oh, boy.
And Mr. Mayor, as you tell me 9 o'clock, I
How
look
about
at,
breakfast?
Councilman Maldonado, and he's the one who's kind of looking at me saying,
Oh,
please,
Timing.
Councilman Maldonado gotta have to give an hour to us here because this is more important.
Mr. Barona's gonna pay my wage for the day.
Yeah,
No,
good.
he does his
Let's
business
do it.
right here on the phone.
Yeah, he does it all
He
the
does
time.
it right here.
Yeah.
So 9?
9 o'clock.
9 to 12, and we can say 2 to 5.
Okay.
I second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Kissinger.
Yes, sir. We're
Thank
ready
you,
for a
members of the
vote.
city council.
Okay.
But there was a motion in a second
Oh, let's vote on it.
to contact, and now the additional, initially the motion was to contact the two finalists. Now we've obviously developed that into a
Time thing.
invitation to an interview, so if that's the understanding, I think we should have a vote.
Okay.
January 6th,
Jan-
two candidates,
two
starting at
candidates.
9.
And you know the
9 to
candidates.
12 and 2 to 5, and we have lunch from 12 to 2, and you're taking us to lunch.
Is that part of the motion? or-
Yes.
Yes, part of the
Mr.
motion.
Kissinger, you can tell them if
I
they want to come
second
down on a Sunday.
Yes. Yeah, go.
Let
Let
them
me
know
want
if
to
they
know
want to
she's
come down on
included
Sunday.
in the lunch.
Yeah, Letty, you're included.
in the motion.
No, you don't have to, you don't have to talk to them and tell them that they want to get here on Sunday. You don't have to do that. A good city manager should know better to get here on
Yeah.
Sunday, to be here at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, to be here
Because
on
if you tell him you're going to get here on Sunday, he's going to tell you, what hotel are you going to pay for? And that's, John's going to have to take care of that. So right now, in the conversation, let's have a vote. Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 9 o'clock.
I don't know.
Nay, 9 o'clock.
What were we voting?
On the time
All
and
that,
the two
All of
candidates.
that
All that.
and
And a little
three.
bit more.
Yes, yes. And the last word you said, that John's paying for lunch.
Oh,
Yeah.
that too, very important.
How about breakfast?
And don't take us,
Come on, come on.
I think maybe we better reopen that up because what I think I heard is that John will provide
Yeah.
lunch to the mayor and council.
That's
right?
right.
and a little something in the morning.
A little something in the morning. Coffee.
On the city, right?
Letty,
Mhm.
he's looking at you, he said a little something in the morning.
But only from 6
Pan
to
dulce
7.
con cafecito.
From 6 to 7.
So maybe, let's go on to the next item.
Yeah, I know, let's
Yeah.
do that before
We
we
should do
having
one day,
dinner
one
and
day,
Yeah.
one day. That would
All
be
right.
the best.
Okay. Number 4, orders. Consideration possible action of order 2019-12-075.
So moved. Second?
Mr. Mayor? So,
Yes.
this was the item that we spoke about on the last meeting, except we didn't have it prepared correctly coming out of HERF, but actually it would be coming out of overweight. You saw the presentation on the expenditure of overweight and HERF, and this was included in it. It meets all of our procurement requirements, and staff is asking you to go ahead and approve this so we can get this paper purchased.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion from them? Yes, Councilman.
Okay, I just want to go over this here, some comments. This paper that we're going to be buying here, Mr. Kissinger, how does our staff have the training to use this paper?
Good question. Juan, would you mind coming up and explaining to the councilman how we've been already training on this equipment and what training we'll be receiving?
Yeah, good afternoon. Dr. Verona, Councilmember Verona, we are lucky that Innova is one of the companies working for the city now, and they
Nova?
Innova.
The ones that are
Innova.
doing the
Yeah.
trenching?
So luckily they bought the same machine for the paving of Magnum, and then our employees, our 3 employees, were able to come in and take a look and test the machine. So they easily become very, they understood all the procedures of how to operate the machine, and they are very happy with the results, and they will be able to, with no troubles, to operate this machine. And it's more capacity, and it's a very good brand. They are very happy with the quality so far, but they have tested already.
And Juan, does it come, as we purchase it, doesn't it come with training also by the manufacturer?
Yes, sir. There is an opportunity to, someone will come in and give us additional training.
At our cost or at their cost?
It's included in
Well, that's good to realize that on this paving. Also, here again, we talk about these projects, and sometimes there's not a follow-through. In particular, Mr. Guerra talked about the paving on McNabb. This morning when I'm coming through, going back home from the gym, I fall into another pothole, two big potholes on Western Avenue in McNabb. You know, between the contractor and us, doesn't anybody go through the area over there to see if there's any potholes there? Doesn't anybody check it?
They're huge.
I pass
too.
by, they're huge potholes.
huge,
My
yeah.
car's slammed down, but I just can't, between the contractor and the streets, doesn't anybody go by and check anything over there? Why do I have to bring it up in a city council meeting, these things?
Mr. Mayor, may I
Yes,
comment
go ahead.
with that?
Yes,
Mr. Mayor?
yes.
And we did talk about it briefly last time about it. There's no signs at all. I went through it this morning. I went to Tucson at 5 in the morning, and I hit those same craters that you did. And no signage, real slow, terrible. And you know, we've seen construction in Tucson and Phoenix. We lived in Tempe when there was a lot of the streets were never in that condition, like they are here. And we did talk about it last time, Mayor. There's something that we have to do with the sign. How many cars have hit those craters?
I don't know.
You know, it's I don't know. I'm very disappointed with that.
This is the
construction.
second, excuse me, are you concluded?
Yes, I am.
This is the second time I called this to your attention, and I shouldn't have to do that.
Councilman, I have also, the same way that you, I have indicated this to the contractor. I will talk to them again, and I will be rude this time, because it's embarrassing for me as well to be repeating the same request, so I will talk to them.
Okay, now I'd like to make, Mr. Kissinger made a comment right now that I want to address this thing on the overweight fees and how we're paying for this paving projects. A little historical deal, because when I first got onto the council, this overweight fees was kind of structured in its what we could pave and everything like that. And I've always felt that the money does belong, you know, it's in our coffers, and if we want to use it for beyond the streets that are assigned in that legislation, there were certain streets that were assigned to help with the trucking, to help our community. And today I went through Industrial Drive, which I've talked to you about, and you know, there's a lot of holes in that street too. The same thing on the arterial street of Bell Avenue. Now, I don't mind if you want to look at the example of Crawford to McNabb, what we're talking about right now. We have spent over $600,000 of overweight fees on that project, which I supported. When we originally started with a portion of Crawford Street, again, we didn't have enough funding from the city of Nogales budget to do that project. You weren't here for the first part. And I know that these people who went over there to get this legislation to tax themselves, and that's what they did. I've never seen business go out and say, tax me and tax me. I've never seen that before. So I said, no, let's use overweight fees to make sure we do the project, because I believe this community should see projects. That's what we're here for, to do projects. We're not here to go approve the demands and all of this routine stuff. We've got to do things where the citizens notice the difference that we're trying to make in this community. But here again, the problem that I have with this overweight fees is that we're still losing sight of this money that's coming in to our coffers to do these projects. I brought out this thing of this, the arterial of Bell Road. Now, when we want to talk about something like that, all of a sudden, we're bogged. You try to bog me down. Well, the rules and the regulations say 9 inches, and they got to do it first before we can take it over. And you inundate me with paperwork and ordinances and everything like that. But I don't see it. When we're doing all of these other projects, you don't inundate me when we go pave other streets with the truckers' money. It's not property taxes. It's not sales taxes. This money is coming from the trucking industry. That's where we're getting it from. So when we come up and tell you guys, I help a little. I mean, we spend millions and millions of dollars, including millions and millions of dollars on the overpass. That overpass that's going to start in a couple of months would not be available to us had we not the money of $6 million to help to contribute it. And ADOT made it very clear when I went to Globe to speak and to Phoenix to speak on behalf of us being awarded this project, that it was important. If we don't have cities now because of the shortage of money to contribute, we're not going to get the project. So we had this money. So I don't like to be bogged down when we should be able to help when we're using all of this money for other streets. Now we got this money because these people, the truckers, the industry, because I found out that San Luis and Douglas also has this. But they get very, very little money because they don't have overweights trucks that go through their community. Now these people went to the state legislature to tax themselves. I don't want these people to get frustrated. I'm supportive of what we're doing because we need money to do these projects. But I don't want these people to, I'm sensing frustration when they come over here to ask us for help. And then we say we can't do it. And we can't do it because of these ordinances and everything. But then we can do all of these other things. And the people of Nogales aren't being taxed for that. They're not a part of the revenue stream. There's a certain segment of the business community that's taxing themselves so that we can do this. So, these people went to the state legislature, and I don't want, Mr. Guerra, these same people to go back to the state legislature in January and say, we don't want to be taxed anymore. So let's get a little bit of cooperation with the business community here of how we can help when they come and ask us for this. Because they're the ones who are taxing themselves. It's not that we're going to the public and saying, let's have a property tax. Because you know what would happen if we did that. You know exactly what would happen. So Mayor, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated from the responses that I'm getting from Mr. Guerra about all of this and Mr. Massey. And I understand, but there's got to be a balance of how we can help these people who are helping us to get this money, this overweight fee money, so that we can do all of these projects that we're doing, which are very good projects. Because I don't know where we would get the $800,000 from Crawford to McNabb. There'd be no project there right now if it wasn't for the overweight fees. So I'm just asking, work with these people. That's all I'm asking for, Mayor. Why can't we work with them instead of bogging down and everything? At least saying, okay, we'll come up with X amount of dollars, you come up with X amount. But we're not even saying that. I just want to see some cooperation here. That's all.
Well, let me just recap a little bit on what you just said.
Sure.
Mr.
Mayor,
Arona.
could they lower the heater here? It's right
Yeah.
above me and it's really hot.
Mr. Arona, just so that everybody understands on the overweight. The overweight is actually comes from the state of Arizona, not from the trucking industry.
But they pay
The state, they pay because they want to come across the border
Right.
overweight.
to the state.
Yeah.
Who gives it to us?
Yeah, but
they pay
let
for
me
it.
tell you what happened, how that money came about.
I
I'm
found
the
out.
one that brought it.
Well,
Well,
I
no,
brought that
no,
up.
listen to me.
Yeah, no, I know. but
Okay.
I
was
checked
a-
on that though too.
I was there. I was there with Robert Schuler. I was there with the Senator of Transportation at the time, Mr. Williams. I did a presentation with him too, asking about the money. There were letters written also from different people here in Nogales in the produce industry.
Mhm.
But because the state was getting 100% of the overweight fees, nobody was taxing anybody. It was, they wanted to come across overweight and they couldn't leave Rio Rico because the state wouldn't allow them to leave into the interstate, but they had to get on the interstate from here to Rio Rico. So they said, we'll tax you, not tax you, we're gonna charge you if you're gonna be on the streets this much fee to come across. So what it was is that it wasn't fair for the state to keep 100% of it. So I was part of that committee. We received, and I was hoping to receive 50% of it, but they decided to give 25 to the county and 25 to the city of Nogales. And the county was not even involved in this conversation at all at the time, Mr. Varona. It was yours truly part of it, okay? As mayor. So it wasn't a tax to say I'm gonna tax every truck. If they don't wanna come across with overweight, they don't have to come across overweight and they have to pay. They don't have to pay anything. But they wanna come across with overweight. So they have to pay for that ticket that they get. From that money, 100% the state was getting, I'll repeat it again. We received 25, the county receives 25. And the county receives 25 only for that little piece of frontage road that they have from Pilot to the industrial park. We have more roads than they do. And from what I understand, when we received the money, it was going to be, even though it goes into the general fund, it was going to be kind of like curb to curb, to be used for paving the streets.
100% is curb money.
Okay, so this is the thing. We didn't tax anybody for it. They want to come across overweight, pay for it. If you don't want to come across overweight, you don't pay a penny. You come across and don't pay a cent. So if I had a trucking company, I would make sure that my trucks weigh the proper weight across the line and come across, and I don't pay a cent on it. But since they want to come across overweight, at one time they used to do this. They used to be overweight, and they used to stop them at the border. And companies from here would send bobtails to put the weight that they had on a bobtail and send it to the produce company. And they had different companies doing that. They were making a lot of money. Now those companies don't even exist because they're allowing the trucks to go all the way to Rico and to the warehouses. So those companies that were using bobtails to unload the overweight from the trucks at the border do not exist anymore. I know several people that lost their jobs and lost their companies because they don't do that business for anybody else. So there was a loss in an area, so there's a loss. But we're not charging anybody nada. You want to bring your truck the right weight, you can come across the right weight. But that's the way it works, okay? So you know, if we're going to use this money on this, and I think it's worthwhile spending this money, because with this paver we will be paving roads where there could be trucks on there, where there could be vehicles on it, where whatever, but it would fall under the HERF program. I don't see any problem on it. But I do understand, Mr. Arona, what you're trying to say, you know, that we should only be fair, especially talking about Bell Road. We should only be fair. We're trying to be as fair as possible. Go ahead, Mr. Anciano.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, just to add to that, it started before you became mayor. If you remember, we met with the truckers. The
Yes.
truckers were 100% against the overweight.
Yes.
Because they figured they were going to lose 10% of their trucking. And we met with them. They wanted to meet. They went to the state. The state was at a point, well, you know, where is the city going to be at? After we met with them, after we met with the produce people, it was decided, well, it seems to be, the produce people's opinion was we're still going to get more trucks coming over. So they're not going to lose that much, right? I still remember taking you to the airport in Tucson, where you met Governor Brewer,
Yes.
and that's where the whole thing was set up. I was not in the meeting. You went inside. I was not invited, so you said, come on in with me. I said, I wasn't invited, you know, so you go. And at that meeting was where it came out. At that time, it was 50-50.
Yes.
There was no question as to who was going to get the money. The state decided because of the pollution going through Nogales, because of everything else. It wasn't just the roads. It was the dust. It was the pollution. It was the traffic. All that, they decided that the city deserves 50% if they use the overweight. At that time, the produce people were hustling us. You've got to go with our side. You've got to go with our side. When you became mayor, that was just at that point. Then it was decided it should benefit everybody. But the whole thing was it was going to be used as HERF money. No one ever mentioned the word and use it for produce. Never mentioned it once. Not once was it ever mentioned. It wasn't mentioned until months later. Somebody said, well, you know, we should get some, you know. But again, who is there with all the fumes? Who's there with the traffic on Mariposa Road and all this? Who's the one that handling the whole deal? Called the city of Nogales. So the people of Nogales deserve what they're getting, which was used as HERF money. And so that means everybody should share on it. It's not for the produce people. It was for the city of Nogales, and the check is made out to the city of Nogales. It is. I've never seen a check made out to the produce industry. So that's where the story was. And Mr. Verona, we happened to be there. So you're hearing it like a lot of people secondhand.
Go ahead.
You sound like Trump's attorney. Secondhand.
Go ahead.
Maybe third hand.
Go ahead, Mr. Verona. Councilman Verona.
Here again, the reason I bring this up is exactly in relationship to Councilman Henesian's comment. We cannot charge, we don't have the legal authority to charge any truck coming over into Nogales through the ports. We have no authority whatsoever. So I asked J.B. Manson, who was the chairman of the Port Authority at that time, tell me about this. And I asked him in particular, who went from the city of Nogales to testify before these committees, these various committees over there on passing this legislation? Who testified? Nobody. They did it all. He said, we, him referring it, testified before the committees and there. Now, who's paying for this? Well, they're paying for it. So if they're paying for it, all I'm saying is, why can't we help them when they need some help? That's all. Why can't we be business friendly? That it belongs to us. You know, with an attitude like that, we might as well just. I would be scared and it's going to be coming very soon that we're going to be needing more revenues than what we have, because we have two departments that take up all of the sales tax, all of the sales tax. So all I'm saying is, regardless, if we don't have that industry that's willing to tax themselves or pay a fee, who went over there to get some of their streets paved where their trucks go through, and there is not one truck that's going to go from the top of Crawford to Western Avenue. Not one truck is going to go through there. So all I'm saying is, let's be a little cognizant that these people are contributing, and let's see what we can do to help the businesses that are contributing this money. Because without this money, you know, just the way the state legislature approved the statute for this, they can approve a statute to do away with it, don't they? And then what's going to happen? All right? Because you going up there to lobby that say you want the money with the people that pay that, because there was another trucking, they wanted to do that, the Port Authority again wanted to pass another tax on the trucking industry. But that, then, the second time they tried it, which was about my second year on the council, we had a backlash from the trucking industry. Big backlash, and they couldn't get it. So, I'm just saying, Mayor, it's not so much the point of the value or who went or who's paying. If these people are paying, let's be a little business friendly as a mayor and council to help these people who are providing all of this that we can do. That we want to pave streets? Of course we want to pave streets. But we have to understand, I'm just bringing to the attention, we're going to get a paver, but we're not getting it out of our general funds. It's coming from this group of industry, and we should just be cognizant of that and be business friendly when they come over here. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Councilman. Go
Mr.
ahead.
Mayor, again, you know, I understand all this, but what the money was designated for was for the city of Nogales. That's what they told us, without any reservations. It's to be used as HERF money. No one ever mentioned the fact you're limited to what you can use that money for. If that had been brought up at the time, then we would have reconsidered the whole situation. But the way they presented it to us, that was going to be a golden parachute for us to be able to do such things as we're doing now, paving different streets, buying different equipment that can help the city of Nogales. The money belongs to the city of Nogales. It doesn't belong to the produce people. It doesn't belong to Dr. Verona. It belongs to the people of the city of Nogales, because they're the ones that are suffering. They're the ones that have to go through the through the traffic jams. They're the ones that have to smell the fumes. They're the ones that are doing that whole thing. And maybe for that reason, that's why the governor at the time decided, let's give that to the city of Nogales and let them use it to clean up the streets.
Mayor,
And we were there, so
We
that's.
need to move on.
yes,
Yeah.
and I want to make a final comment.
Okay.
Councilman Hennessia makes as much sense as Lindsey Graham did today in the hearings.
Okay, all right. In the conversation. All right, in the conversation. Let's take a vote on this.
What are we
Call for the
voting on?
question.
What are we voting on?
I'm buying the
We're
purchase
voting on
order.
the favor.
All right.
Call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Number 2, consideration possible action of order 2019-12-076.
So move, Mayor.
Have a second. Thank you very much. Discussion.
Mayor?
Yes.
Just
These are the air packs.
the air packs, okay. And where are we paying that from?
It's not from overweight money.
Well, I want to make sure. Tell me about this.
John, could you please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, these air packs were budgeted for in your 1920 budget under the fire department under the contingency fund.
Okay. So these are the air packs that, at that time, that was brought to us by the assistant chief over there at that time, and it was Jerry Castro that brought that they needed these air packs, that they were becoming kind of, weren't clean.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
I think over the past few years, there's always been a desire by the Nogales Fire Department to replace their 20-year-old air packs. I'm not sure if it was brought up on several occasions during several budgets, but I know it was talked about in your 1920 budget, sir.
And that is a total price of $303,000? Is that correct?
That's correct.
$303,000. Here again, Mayor, I look at this request as something that we as a mayor and council have a responsibility to make sure that our police officers and our firefighters and even our public works are safe. This is something that you look at the price tag, $303,000, that comes out of our budgetary money from sales tax. Correct, Mr. Kissinger?
Yes, sir, it comes out of general fund
The
contingency.
general fund. But we have to make sure that our firefighters, and in particular, that's what this request is for, are properly protected, and that when we send them someplace, that they are safe. So, and I remember talking about this in particular. Mr. Mayor, I'm in accord with this.
More discussion? Call for the question. Hearing none. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Number 3, consideration possible action of order 2019-12-077.
So move, Mayor.
Second.
Discussion.
What were the changes that were made?
Mr.
In
Mayor,
particular.
the
Go ahead.
previous, the previous policy that was inadvertently put into your packet, it wasn't the final draft, and I wasn't able to change it in time, and we ran into some problem. Letty was out with a medical issue, and I wasn't able, and even when Letty was here, it was very difficult for me to remove this policy from INCO. But with the help of Jose and what have you, I was able to replace it. The policy that was in front of you today, that staff is recommending, should have been the policy that you would have considered in your last meeting. There shouldn't be a change because the previous was only in a draft form, and you should have never even gotten that policy in the first place. So you're not changing anything. Staff is recommending and asking you to approve the policy that we brought in front of you today as presented.
Well, Mayor, I see I had some concerns, and especially when you just say finance. I see that those have been taken care of and addressed here. The only thing is that, this is a policy that I think will clarify a lot of things to make sure that there's accountability in this process, so that we can pinpoint what's going on here, and we can keep better track of if we're going to lend our firefighters out to another community, which I think we should, because sometimes we may be in that position. I just want to make sure that we get reimbursed. That's so everything I've read through it now. My concerns have been changed and they're addressed. So I support this.
Any more discussion, members of the city council? No? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? The ayes have it. Motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. This meeting is adjourned. Session, Nogales Housing Authority Board of Commissioners meeting, 3 p.m. Wednesday, December 11th, City Hall Complex. I call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Madam Clerk, will you please?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, that's a beautiful mosaic, isn't it?
It is beautiful. Beautiful.
Call to the public. Do we have anybody in call to the public?
I don't have
Nobody?
none, sir.
John. Kathy, you want to say something?
Might as well, huh?
All right. Number 4, executive session. Members of the city commissioners, not council, I move to go into executive session.
I just want to make,
Yes.
oh no, Mr. Kissinger's here. So you're recommending that we go, Mr. Matt? We're okay with it?
Yes.
Okay, I just
Yes.
want to make sure.
That's quick. Okay. We'll be right out.
We're going to executive session.
You two, come in too, these two.
Oh,
You can come in. Ooh. Watch out with this room. Now this room is really hot.
for sure.
Okay. All right, so we'll go to item number 5. Reconvene from executive session, going up to item number 5. Housing resolution. Consideration possible action of housing resolution 2019-1201-04.
So moved, Mayor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Mr. Mayor, who is Frida Rodriguez?
Frida Rodriguez, housing specialist.
She was here? One of the ladies?
Yeah,
I just
she's
don't
an
know.
employee at the housing and she's our housing specialist.
And is she
And
gonna
so-
be bonded for this? Is she bonded
know.
for this?
Is she bonded or no? Do they have to be bonded or no?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
They do?
Yes, because they're signing checks.
They do have to be bonded? So what's the deal on this?
Well, we have a really good insurance, but I'll have to check with that.
Okay.
Usually, everyone that's covered is covered, needs to be covered, is covered on that.
Okay.
But I need to follow up.
Okay.
And she's replacing Lupita, right?
Lupita?
So
Lupita's
Lupita's
retiring,
retiring,
¿verdad?
who was a signature, so it's replacing Lupita. So I was making the assumption that Lupita was good, she will be good, but I'm gonna ask
Yeah.
Mr. Massey to double check into those questions. And if we have a negative response on the bonding issue, I will definitely encourage us to bring it back to the mayor and council.
When is Lupita's last date? Jim? The 20th?
Mr. Chairman,
And Frida's just the backup until we have a director.
Okay.
Mr.
All right,
Chairman,
perfect. Yes.
on this issue here, I would like to be removed from the bank too, because I'm still on Wells Fargo,
Wow.
and I would like to be removed from that one. So
No, you've already been removed,
Is Marcy on
when you
there?
left.
because I remember about a couple of months back, Francisco wanted to do something with the funding at Wells Fargo, but he didn't have the authorization, so he had to call me, and I had to go in there with him.
Actually, I remember Alex presenting a resolution and removing the prior directors.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman,
Okay.
if it helps, I will double check into
All right.
Okay.
his
Yeah, because it's
concerns.
going in a different direction.
And if he is, I will make sure he gets removed.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Barona, can he get put on?
Lindsey Graham is speaking, Mayor.
Okay, that's all I have. Mr. Chairman.
Should I give him the time?
I don't want to answer that question because then I don't want to be taken aside.
All right.
Get in and you're not gonna get out.
Okay, I'll call for the question. All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, number 6, director's report, financial report. Do we have one? No? Yes? Yes? No? Yes?
Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners, for the remaining balance of the 2018 grant, those will be used for the UFAS, which is the Uniform Accessibility Standards, bringing some of those units up to speed on that. We currently will put those out to bid. The terminology or the language is up at HUD for a little bit of revision and changes. Once that comes out, it'll go out to bid and we'll move on those. So we did receive the 2019 funding finally, and we are already starting to obligate some of those funds for replacement of some ranges and refrigerators. So that's coming up in the near future. We received the FSS waiver, the family, there we go. Self-sufficiency waiver this morning. That is good all the way up to December 31st of 2020, and we will revisit that at the beginning of 2021 or before that. So we should have either another waiver in place or a different type of approach for that. Aside from that, we're just waiting for some language and some formatting on our CMAP, which is the Section 8 measurement and assessment program. So once we get that formatting in place, and that'll probably be within the next couple of days, it will be clear. If I may relay something really quick from Ms. Duron up at HUD, she wanted me to express that the current staff we have right now, primarily Martin and Terry, have done their best, and as soon as we get CMAP signed, we should be out of the high risk, and particularly she thanks them too for getting us out of there. So we're moving in the right direction.
Good.
Aside from that, we're good to go. A couple minutes
Okay.
after 4.
Do you have anything, do you have anything on the, to discuss on the current, on 7?
I think you covered both.
Both? You got them both on that?
So our Guerrero apartments, which are 7 of them, we were able to get the county to do the in-house inspection of that. We were able to get those signed. Last week, we submitted this to the county. Ms. St. John was the one who signed, so we're good to go on those as well. We met the deadline for the end of the year.
Okay.
Where are those apartments?
Up on Guerrero, off on Las Americas Drive and
It's on
Kelsey,
Kelsey,
near
the top of
Ware County
Kelsey.
Middle School.
Up on
So
Kelsey.
so those are 7 elderly units.
Yeah.
He's thinking of his friend.
Commissioner?
It's next to your house?
No. Mr. Thompson, from what the dialogue that he's presented, I think he should pay us for the education that you're getting. He should pay us for
Well,
this
that-
education.
yeah.
Mayor, I suggest we take the money out of the overweight.
You're never gonna leave that one down.
Motion to adjourn.
No, it's future agenda items. Do you guys have anything else? Nothing. Okay, second on the adjournment. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Ya no nos vamos a ver, güey.